So recently in one of my saves, one of my new gens went from having a pretty clean shaven face to the next year having this massive beard, which reminded me of the fact that new gens can change their appearance. They can go grey, they can go bald even, and they can of course grow beards, as I've just shown you. And this got me to thinking of what other things exist in Football Manager that maybe some of you guys don't know about. So today I'm going to bring you 10 things that you probably didn't know about in FM24. Come on. So we'll start with that example. Your new gen players can age in your games. They can visually change over the course of your save to look older. They can change their hairstyles. You might get a new gen that has a pink mohawk, although that is quite rare. But then within a couple of years, they might be completely bald. They can grow beards. They can change their haircuts. They will change their appearance. It's not always the case, and you may not have noticed it. And actually, in my example here with Hudson, he was 34 and he looked exactly the same throughout his entire career. I was simulating at the end of my Pentagon save until one year I came back and he had this massive beard. So it's something to look out for, but it is a nice idea. And it is a pro to leave in your game without the modded in new gen faces. If only Sports Interactive could make them look just a little bit more realistic, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Anyway, that's the first example of something that I don't think everybody knows about in Football Manager. Let's go through and I'm going to give you 9 more. Before I give you those 9, please subscribe to the channel. That's my very quick plea today. Thank you very much for watching. Number 2, did you know that dynamic rivalries can develop in-game? So of course in games you will recognise that you have rivalries with other teams. For example, you have local rivals. So Liverpool have Everton as a local rival. I'm looking here at Corinthians in Brazil. They have Santos as a local rival. You will also have fierce rivals. Now again, in the case of Corinthians, they have Palmeiras as a local fierce rival. There's also 4 other derbies listed in their rivalries. They have the Paulista derby versus Palmeiras. They have the Majestoso derby versus Sao Paulo, the Das Multidos derby versus Flamengo. I've really set myself up here, haven't I? And also the Dos Invictos derby versus Portuguesa. But did you know, as well as these coded in rivalries, if you were to organically end up playing against other teams in big games, title deciding matches, or you end up playing the same team in big cup finals more than once, you can actually develop what is known as a dynamic rivalry in the game. I remember I was once doing a Hertha Berlin save and I developed a dynamic rivalry with Dortmund. Now that isn't usually listed as a rivalry between those two teams, but I just ended up fighting for the league with them a few times, played them in a few cup competitions, and they became a dynamic rivalry. You'll get a notification in your emails, and then from that point on, those games will become bigger games and they'll have that extra edge that happens when you play one of your rivals. It's pretty cool. Anyway, on to the third thing that I don't think everybody knows about FM24. Thirdly, did you know that your new gens can come out as gay? This has been in the game for quite a while now, but occasionally, every now and then, one of your new gen players will come out as gay. It will once again be a news item in your emails letting you know that this particular player has made the decision to go public with the news. You even get a bit of an increase in things like shirt sales. You can get a bit of a windfall from the news as well, which is really cool. Just to note, it will only happen to a new gen player, but either way, I think it's a cool feature. Number 4, did you know that your conversations with your players can have a direct effect on their mental attributes? So when you're talking to a player about performance or training or anything like that, your choice of tone and your choice of response can actually impact a player's hidden attributes such as determination and ambition and professionalism, and as well as their morale. This is particularly pertinent with younger players, but this should definitely be something that you're considering when you're talking to your players, especially if you're doing a save that focuses on things like youth, a youth-only save or something like that, where you're trying to mold your players into the best possible professionals to go and develop to the top of their potential. Think about how you're talking to them. This brings me pretty nicely onto number 5 as well, and that is that criticism can build determination. Now, way back in older FMs, you used to be able to fine a player for poor performances. You can't fine a player anymore, but you can discuss poor performances with them. Back in the day, if you find a player, you would actually get a news item saying that they're going to work harder. And if you clicked onto their profile, you would actually see that their determination, it either had one of those up arrows or it had actually increased from say 14 to 15. This isn't quite the case anymore, but criticizing a player's performance or criticizing a player's training rating can actually increase a player's determination over time. Now, make sure that this is justified. I usually go for if a player has got a less than 6.5 training rating, they'll usually react to it pretty well. But beware, that can also vary depending on that specific player's personality. But generally about 6.5 or lower is the threshold. Now, over time, this will actually increase their determination. And again, it's especially pertinent in those younger players who are still developing their full-on personality and they're a little bit more flexible at that age. Likewise, this kind of bleeds into the point previously as well, but if you are praising players, generally look for an above 7.5 training rating and they'll react positively to it and you'll be able to see a boost in their morale. Number 6, did you know that DNA-focused recruitment is much smarter now in FM24? What do I mean by that? So what I mean is clubs with a really defined DNA or club vision, for example, a team that has a focus on pressing football or attacking football, or even only recruiting players of a specific nationality. Think Athletic Club Bilbao, who will of course only recruit players from the Basque region. Did you know that the scouts of that club will automatically shortlist and exclude players based on these invisible values, even if you haven't specifically asked them to do so in your recruitment focuses? I noticed this loads when I did a save with Berwick Rangers, where I was only signing Scottish players. And if I went to check my scout reports, I was getting Scottish players just because it was hard coded into my club vision. Rather than me actually setting it or saying it to my scouts anywhere, I was naturally only being recommended Scottish players, which I think is a really cool feature. This is really obvious when it comes to nationalities, but also if you have a look at your club vision and it recommends to play pressing football or develop young players, naturally your scouts shortlisting will reflect those values. Again, it's pretty neat and you may not have noticed it because it is quite niche. Number 7, did you know that international games will impact a player's personality when they return to club football? This is something that I think is maybe not hidden, or you probably do know this, but maybe it's just something to bring up and make sure that you are paying attention to it. I think we keep a really close eye on our results as club managers, and then the players go off on international duty and you don't really pay too much attention to it, or at least I don't. But if you've got a player playing for a weaker national team and they're going away and being thumped in games and losing 3 games, say, in the international break, they will definitely be coming back with that emotional baggage of losing those games. And that might just be something that you need to manage a little bit differently. Maybe you need to go and praise the training when they return. Maybe you don't start those players and you bring in the players that are on a high because their national team has gone and won games. Just something you probably actually need to pay a little bit closer attention to, or at least something that I know I need to pay a bit more attention to. Number 8, conversations with agents can unlock potential transfers. Now, we've all done it. We've gone to our player search screen, we've put our filters in, and we've filtered away players that are not interested in joining us. It's always the first thing that I do. I put it down to doubtful, and I look for players that have any slight interest in joining my club. Any players that aren't on that list are pretty much excluded because they don't want to join me. However, some of them still will want to join you. You just need to speak to their agent, and that agent will then tell you exactly what they want. Now, a lot of the time, they will say, not interested whatsoever, but sometimes players that weren't originally on that player search list will actually speak to you, but there are specific needs that they want to be put into their contract or into their playing time or whatever it might be, and the agent will tell you about it. If there is a certain player that you really want to go and get, don't rule it out completely just because they're not popping up in that player search. I'd also recommend assigning a scout to go and watch their matches. Declaring interest in them, or even going to watch the matches yourself personally, can affect whether they're interested in joining you a little bit. Sometimes being patient pays off. Number 9, there are soft-coded transfers that will happen in every game of Football Manager. Have you noticed that in some saves, certain players always end up at certain teams? Yeremy Pino used to go to Liverpool in every single save. I think it was in last year's game. And this isn't a fluke. This is because it is actually coded into the game. And this is based on that DNA-focused recruitment that we talked about earlier. Clubs that favour pressing football or a certain shape or a certain tactical style, etc., will naturally shortlist players that fit those requirements. So the style of play, the gegenpress style of play that Liverpool played, may have made Yeremy Pino a perfect target. And there are ways to look under the hood of Football Manager, and you can actually see which potential transfers are listed for each club in the game. So this explains why you see the same transfers happening in all of your FM saves. It's not a fluke, it's literally coded into the game. And finally, my final one of today's video is deadline day free loans. If you are a team that loves to do loans, if you are Zealand Shannon and you love to do loans, did you know that if you wait until the very end of the transfer window, right up until deadline day, you are way more likely to get yourself free loans? And who doesn't love a freebie? Now, up until this point, when you go to loan a player, they'll probably ask for a monthly fee and they'll probably be asking for pretty extortionate wages. It's annoying. But if you wait until deadline day, suddenly, if they haven't moved on loan already, clubs become much more desperate to ship out their players. And suddenly, they'll be asking for no wages and often no monthly fee at all. And you'll be able to go and get free loans. This is amazing if you're playing a lower league save and you want to get those players from the teams in the leagues above you for free with no contribution at all. It can be a complete game changer. Again, it's about about being patient. And that rounds up my 10 things that you may or may not have known about FM24. Now, hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. Maybe you learned a thing or two along the way. What I'd actually love is for you guys to put a few of these examples of your own into the comment section of today's video, so that when you finish watching, go and scroll through the comments and there might be even more things that you're learning. And do you know what? I've got more of these. So if you want to see another video, let me know in the comments down below as well. But most importantly, have a lovely rest of your day. Subscribe to the channel and watch one of the other videos that pops up like now.